Today's topic is etheric vision. Now, that's really a very big mouthful as far as I'm concerned. For me to talk about the etheric vision, I would first have to describe to you the etheric. And to speak of the etheric is basically to reach beyond the realms of science. But that's what we're going to attempt to do in this short 20 minutes. It will not be easy, and I cannot guarantee that I can even begin to share with you the theory of the ethers as given by Rudolf Steiner, H.P. Blavatsky, Rama Prasad, ancient Vedic literature, modern theories, just the history of the ethers with our modern scientific theories, and also the new theories, Higgs boson, all of them. They're all based upon the ether, an existing ether that has absolutely magical and mysterious characteristics. Even Einstein's theory of relativity was based upon a luminiferous ether that was an a priori assumption. The luminiferous ether had to exist before light could do anything. All of Einstein's theories are based upon the propagation of light, which has been demonstrated to be incorrect. And one thing is true about his theory of relativity, and that is that there is at least one ether. So we're going to talk about that and see what we can do. But to do so, literally, is to create a theory of everything, as I mentioned. But we will probably not talk about all 7 ethers. Perhaps we'll at least be able to get to the 4 ethers that manifest in the earthly realm and the etheric body that belongs to the human being. So out of Rudolf Steiner's anthroposophy and theosophy and many other ancient teachings, there are 4 bodies that we have, essentially. There are many ways to divide it up. But for sure, we have a physical body, which we would know the scientists are able to work with that and do wonders with it. Then we have this etheric body. Now, the etheric body is defined as the life body that builds up the physical body. That is an amazing thing, seeing that science doesn't even have a theory for ectropy, which is the opposite of entropy. Science has theories of death. They have no theories of life. So when we look at the etheric body, we are looking into a realm that normal science does not go, but they often have to tread there when they see phenomena that is manifesting in the outer world, because without some type of ether that is manifesting this phenomena, they can't do their happy little math equations. So we're going to talk about that etheric body of the human being. The next body we have is the astral body. Everybody gets this body. This is the body of your desires. Everybody understands their desires. They understand their addictions, they understand their poisons, they understand the things that they can and can't do, because if they don't, it leads them into literally perdition. It leads them into hell realms of suffering because of their addiction. The astral body, the body of desire, its number 1 rule is you cannot satiate desire. Try as you will. You cannot. So the only way you can overcome the astral body is to tame it. Can we tame our desires? Well, that's a challenge for the soul that has yet to be seen. Then on top of that, we have consciousness. Now, we have waking consciousness, dreaming consciousness, and dreamless sleep consciousness, at least, and probably trance consciousness, and other types of consciousness. But for sure, we have at least those 3. So what is this ego, this consciousness, what Rudolf Steiner calls the I? We all get a little sense of that. That's who we are. That's our essential core. Those are our capacities. That's what makes us individuals. So physical, etheric, astral, and ego. Astral and ego, it's somewhat close to the soul. We can understand that. The etheric body, few people understand the etheric body. So now I am tasked with giving you an idea of how to develop etheric vision. To have etheric vision, you should probably know what the ether is and what it is you're looking for. Otherwise, you might be looking at it and you wouldn't know. As Goethe said, you can only find that which you know. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you probably won't find it. I'll describe some of it, but first I'd like to describe my path to the etheric. In a volume that's in the series of the Gospel of Sophia, there's one that talks about the etheric body and the way that etheric body is an eternal curriculum, and the way that etheric body works with nutrition, how it works in terms of the elements, how it works in terms of literally the physical mechanics that make our body, how it works in terms of enzymes, amino acids, DNA. So all of that has gone into in this book. So recently I've been reading this, and it's absolutely amazing, the comprehensive view that is presented. What we have in this book is indeed a theory of everything, but it's based upon the 7 ethers, which are very mysterious and would certainly take longer than 20 minutes to discuss here today. When I was a Waldorf teacher, I would always delve into things. And as I got deeper and deeper, I would go to my teachers, which were some of the better teachers in the world who had come over from Dornoch through Europe, all throughout America, throughout the world. And I got to ask them these questions, and it always came back to the same answer. Well, Douglas, I think you need to understand the etheric. And I'd say, okay, what is the etheric? Well, you have to be a Waldorf teacher, and you watch children over 8 years, and you will perhaps see the etheric. Or you could go be a biodynamic gardener and watch your garden over the seasons. Perhaps you'll see the etheric. Or you could study projective geometry and understand the mathematics and geometry of this etheric world. You could understand the flow form and flow forms that show how water is mixed through this etheric mixing. You could do all these different things. But when it came down to it, there was no book that described any of this. There are very few books in anthroposophy that actually describe the etheric formative forces. In the book I was just referring to, there's a list and actually somewhat of an annotated bibliography of those books. And what you find in them is this piece, that piece, but seldom anything cohesive. But if you start to put it together, you see the most cohesive and most astounding picture of what the human etheric body is. It is actually quite shocking. So what I'm about to share is simply my version of what it is that I have been studying. As we look at the Waldorf student, we were told to teach in pictures. Don't teach in dead concepts. We were told to do rituals with the children every day. Rituals that required singing and movement and taste and touch, all stimulation of all the senses, but in a very healthy way and very, very rhythmic over and over again, so that it became habit to the child. And the secret of Waldorf education, one of the secrets, is that you teach them such good habits that when it comes the time to decide something, they simply decide out of their good habit. And then they always move forward. They always progress. Because why? They're taught the proper habits. So if we teach them reverence to the sun each day, if we teach them reverence to the cycles of the season, if we teach them reverence to the cultures that we teach through the literature, if we teach them reverence to the earth, reverence to family, all the different things that we're teaching in the Waldorf curriculum, if we teach that to the child over a period of time, Rudolf Steiner says we replicate the history and development of mankind from first grade for 7 years through 7th grade. And that is why the Waldorf teacher stays with the child during those years, to help, in fact, birth the etheric body. But a most amazing thing after that, it's very nebulous what it is that we're supposed to be doing with the etheric body. So when you look very closely and you start to look at Rudolf Steiner's references to this, for instance, he said that enzymes are a real key to the etheric body. And he said that every enzyme, every protein, is an exact copy of the universe. That is an astounding thing to say. He said that the etheric body is born old and becomes younger as it goes along in this time frame. It becomes younger till at the moment that you die, your etheric body is the youngest that it ever will be. He says that in that etheric body is the entire history of mankind and the future of mankind. He says that in that etheric body we have the levity that creates all life in plants, in human beings standing up. The issue is not, as Newton thought, why did the apple fall on his head, and come up with a theory of gravity which has actually been proven to be incorrect. The real question should have been, to Newton, is how did the apple get up there to begin with? What forces of levity, out of their own constructive and intelligent design, was able to take the specificity of every plant on the earth and manifest it in a way so it's in a symbiotic relationship with animals and humans? This is an amazing thing. You ask a scientist, as I have asked scientist after scientist, why does this happen? And their answer is really quite extraordinary. The answer to it is random warmth. Wow. So all of human creation is for random warmth. I don't think so, because there is nothing, there's chaotizing forces in the etheric, but it is certainly not random. The etheric, for instance, look at the 50,000 proteins that are in the human body, the 15,000 enzymes. Look at human DNA. It cannot possibly be random. It is, in fact, etherically replicating something. What is it replicating? Well, Rudolf Steiner said what it replicates: the entire cosmos. So as we look at the etheric body, which is engaged primarily as a master control through the glands are these master excretors of hormone that control every aspect of our life, from how we perceive time to how we age, how our body grows, what size it is. So the etheric body, in fact, controls most of the spatial phenomena that we have in front of us, both in the outside world and in our human body. The etheric body is a copy of the cosmos. What does that mean? What are these cosmic forces that ray into the human body? Instead of us being somehow materialistic beings who rise up against the gravity of the earth each day and then fall back down and sleep in a prone position at night, we are in fact a living, growing, etheric consciousness that during sleep at night digests all of the stress that the ego and the astral body put upon the body, rebuilds it. So as we know, during the time that we are asleep, our body is more active rebuilding. That's the etheric body. This etheric body works and has a consciousness of its own. And it works in very wonderful, mysterious ways. And every day science discovers new elements of the way this etheric body lives. And yet there is yet to be even the slightest attempt at a philosophical definition of life. What is the intent of life? Where does it come from? The only one that you'll find in entropic science is that life in the human body is determined by enzymatic reaction in the interstitial fluids. Now, if that's your definition of consciousness, well, then I think you're talking about a different human body than the one I'm speaking of, because that is not consciousness. Consciousness in your dream can expand to any size. In your waking consciousness, you can take your brain's thoughts and expand them to the realm of Pluto. You can fill in the space between here and Pluto. You can expand, you can contract, you can go into different states of consciousness, and some would say you can go into this collective unconscious, that through hypnosis you can go into a trance consciousness so that you have actually superhuman capacities, what would be considered superhuman or beyond scientific, supersensible capacities. And it is through the etheric body that this happens. For instance, when adrenaline rush comes on, it comes on through your adrenal glands controlled by the etheric body. So this etheric body is the secret to life. It can be studied by elements, elementals, forces, substances, beings, currents, formative forces, and other manifestations. So when you speak of the etheric body, you speak of the most complicated thing that you could possibly look at, because the human body is the hieroglyph of the universe. It's a copy of the universe. And through, as Steiner indicated, even through each enzyme, each protein, a copy of the universe is imprinted into the human body. We are that copy, but we are evolving. And so as you look at the human being now, we are not the form that we will become when we actually become angels, those who do become angels, that is. In the etheric body is the template of you becoming an angel. In the etheric body is the temple of your nature as an archangel and as your Christ himself. It is imprinted into your own etheric body. The DNA that is not used, which is over half the DNA, that is the DNA we will write as we transform ourselves in the future. This is the gift of the future. Each time you have a true imagination, inspiration, or intuition that is a higher octave of thinking, feeling, or willing, you in fact reach into the future. You look through your etheric body into the future. So, to have etheric vision, you would need to know all of these things, or it would at least help that you knew the manifestation of the etheric body and how it fit in to a cosmology. Then, if you go steps further, you can find out that initiation science, that self-development, that crossing the threshold consciously, all requires the human consciousness through the astral body separating the etheric body while conscious from the physical body. In fact, that is the state, the condition that is called the death swoon of the mysteries. It is the raising from the dead of the Masons and all the different death rituals that are used, the Mithras death symbols to use to make reference to rising up out of the physical material world into the spiritual world. And this is through the etheric body, because in the etheric body is all the wisdom that you will experience when you rise up and separate yourself from the physical and you can see the etheric. You see a picture of the cosmos. The cosmos is not limited by time. You will see the past, the present, and the future. That is a revelation. That is an uncovering of the soul. That is what is described in Volume 2 of the Gospel of Sophia. Revelation, initiation, is in fact a loosening of the etheric body, an awakening of etheric vision. And what is it that you would experience once you had etheric vision? You would see the beings behind the forces. You would see the meaning behind the currents. You would know the history of the elemental beings that sacrificed themselves to give you the ability to come to consciousness. You would start to see all that there was that was surrounding you as spirit, as beings. You would see spirit behind matter. That is what etheric vision gives you. But you would also for sure see Christ, and you would see Sophia, because to get to the etheric, you would have to know Sophia. You would have to know the cosmology of your past and your position in the present as a threefold being in relationship to a trinity, male and female, or one or the other. We are a threefold being, and as we see that and as we manifest that, we are then given the capacity to look into, if we're coherent, we can look into our etheric body and we can see the past, the present, and the future. We can see the beings behind the forces. We can begin to see that Christ is the being that has led the development of human consciousness, and that with the help of Sophia, the etheric world is the place where he is coming, clothed in his second coming. So in that etheric world, through etheric vision, when we understand the etheric body as a revelation of the cosmos, we will in fact have the Sophia of Christ, or Sophia Christos, as is called in the Gospel of Sophia. It will be a true picture of the etheric and how it is that your consciousness relates to it. Thank you.